G'day fellas. So I've been having a lot of conversations with a few people online about the Reebok Pumps, and a number of people have suggested that they can remove the Reebok Pumps and put in, say, a vintage pump that actually works and, after a mere 30 years still manages to hold pressure and function like it was brand new. So anyway, is this possible? Absolutely. There are some caveats, however. So 9 times out of 10, the Reebok pumps that you're going to buy today are going to have a mid-foot pump, regardless of whatever they had back in the day, which I find infuriating. The one exception is the pump, which we're going to come back to, and we'll have a look at this pump a little later in the video. But let's stick with the mid-foot pump concept. Here's a pair I prepared earlier, and I've taken the laces out, as you can see, and I've exposed the tongue. And what I've done is there's this one stitch which is what we would call the closure stitch, and that's the last stitch that's done on the tongue as a component before it's attached finally to the shoe here. Now if you want to mess with your pumps, don't mess with this stitch. It's an important stitch. You undo it, you're never going to get it back in unless you've got access to a post machine, and even if you've got a post machine, you're going to need a really skilled machinist to put it back the way it was. It's always going to look like garbage. So anyways, what you want to do is you want to very carefully unpick this seam, and this is what you're going to find inside. It's stitched, the pump on either side, and then what you can do is you can just pull the whole thing inside out. Right? Now the pump, when you do this on a brand new shoe, will be attached with a stitch, which is just a holding stitch, and you just gently pick it out. Where you're going to have problems is back down here, right at the closure where the tongue meets the vamp. You're going to have to very, very carefully get down in there as far as you can and surgically cut this stitched out hold-on tab. This one hasn't been cut. You're going to have to cut it something like this. You see how it's been cut off? And if you cross this weld line, your pump's ruined. So before you even start this, be prepared for failure, because look, I stuffed this up a number of times, and I've been doing this since the bloomin' 90s at least. Crumbs. So anyway, you pull your tongue inside out, you cut your thing off, you're done. And if all you want to do is swap a midfoot with a midfoot, your job's done, your work's done, your shoe's beautiful, you put it back together, you lace it back up, and no one will be able to tell. This one has been cut to pieces the same as this one. It's just that this one's been laced up all nice and pretty. Now, midfoot pumps are boring. They're my least favourite pump, and they're used everywhere. What's my favourite pump? Full foot pump. This baby, right? This is what the Twilight Zone was originally made with, and in theory, the bringbacks have enough space to accommodate this. Right, as you can see, you can just put the tongue in the tongue, the same way as the midfoot. You have to make a small incision to allow for this pass through from the tongue portion of the chamber to the quarter portion of the chamber, right? And it's about the most destructive thing you have to do. This is my cut that I've made here. I don't know if you can see that, but you've sort of got to put the pump in and then see where this pump's got to be, this cut's got to be made, and then you've got to put that cut in, and then you've got to force all of this material, all of this quarter through one side of your lining. So what you've got to do first is you've got to release the glue. The glue in here is not a particularly good glue. It is a heat activated glue, so as you work it, but that's going to be hard. And you've got to literally just work your fingers in there and separate these linings, and there's going to be a piece of sponge in there as too. I've taken the sponge out. That was probably not the best idea, but it does make the next step a lot easier. So to get this bad boy in there, the only way that I've managed to get it in there and have it aligned so that it's not all crooked is to literally roll the bloody bloomin' thing up like a little sausage, right? And you want to get it as tight a wind and as even a wind as you can. See, I'm trying to straighten it out so that I get this at the bottom of the wind, and then you can place that into your tongue. Is this the right foot? It is the right foot. And then what you've got to do, I've rolled it the wrong way, so you roll it the other way, because what you want to do is you want to jam that mass into the you want to jam the mass in there and hold it in there, and with it twisted the other way, you can just manage to roll it out with your hand inside, and you will scratch your fingers up, and I tell you what, you'll bust a sweat. It's not fun, but it is doable. However, all that said, is it a good thing to do? No. The problem is that all the new ones have been reduced in height. They're basically mid-tops, as if you want to make the distinction. The old ones were high tops. So when you put this in, although it does fit, the chamber goes all the way down to the feather line, which is not good. You want a bit of space for your heel to expand in the shoe as you walk. So it does sort of work. You've got to be very, very careful about the positioning and how you put it in. And honestly, these things, they are pretty robust, but they're also pretty fragile. And the reason that my twilight zones are not being worn and all hanging out apart is because when I did wear them, they punctured. When I did wear these white ones, they punctured the other foot and ruined one of my hen's teeth. So I'm not doing that again. The reason it would have done that is because inside it's just made like a normal shoe, so there's no protection from things like the heel counter, which is the prime suspect, I believe. Rubbing against the heel counter with no protection wore through the chamber and broke it. So that's how not to do it. What's a good way to do it? Well, you get a different shoe if you want full foots. Here's a pair of original Reebok bringbacks, and yeah, basically following the same procedure. I've removed the modern pump and put a vintage pump in that actually works. And because these shoes have different lining configurations, it's both easier and harder. You can undo the same stitch, although it's in a bit of a different location. However, the top of the tongue comes out the same way as the mid-tops. The bottom of the tongue comes out the same way as the mid-tops. But if you look at our pump chamber, you will see that these pumps have two additional tags which have been cut off on this one. Two additional tags here which are sew-in tags which need to be removed, and there's an additional tag at the top here that needs to be removed. So yeah, initially this had me stumped. So what I did for this pair, which is the one pair that sort of works really well, and it's going to be really hard to show you, but what I did was I broke the strobel stitching and lifted up the entire lining on the inside, but I left it attached for a small piece right at the back of the heel, so that the lining will be held at the back in the heel, but I'll have access through the sides to get the pump in and out. And then it's a lot easier, there's a lot more space in there, and that works. What else works? Shack Attacks. Shack Attacks work with full foot pumps. Yes, believe it or not. Can we see that? Alright, I've got a different pump in this one. Alright, it's a full foot pump out of a basketball shoe, which I can't show you at the moment because it's packed away. And I can't remember the name of it, but it's one of the more obscure later Reebok Pump basketball shoes that had a different full foot pump configuration. And in my collecting, I've picked up about 2 of these, and they've been really good, because not only do they fit in the shacks, they also fit in my black tops, which is great, because now I have full foot pumps instead of mid-foot pumps. And well, if you're as crazy as me, then you don't really give much of a you're sick of seeing mid-foot pumps in everything. So yeah, I like to put full foot pumps in everything, so yeah, it's a bit of a problem. I was going to talk about the new pumps. Okay, so we've been looking at old pumps. Let's look at some new pumps. Here's some vintage full foots. Here are some new ones. Now just look at the colour. This material is a lot lighter, and these aren't new ones. These are, I don't know, the 2019 release. I basically stopped buying them when I realised that all the pumps are going to be, just this flimsy stuff. And it gets flimsier and flimsier as time goes on. So yeah, all of these things, even if they come out of the factory with no manufacturing faults, they're just not strong enough to hold any air pressure for any period of time. So not happy, Jan. Not happy. Anyway, how's that for a ramble? Reebok pumps, people. Brr.